Daisy de Melker. Even the name sounds like it belongs to the sort of woman who would smile at you while she stirred poison into your tea. She was born on the 1st of June, 1886, at 7 Fountains near Grahamstown. Back then, she was Daisy Louisa Hancorn-Smith, a sweet, clever little girl who would one day grow into South Africa's first documented serial killer. Daisy's crimes would weave together whispers of arsenic, strychnine, and shadows so dark that even the courtroom where she stood trial seemed to tremble with unease. Imagine her, standing on that wooden dock in the Johannesburg High Court in the year 1932, the room thick with heat and curiosity. People queued for hours each day just to catch a glimpse of her. Some might have come hoping to see a murderer brought to justice, but others came like moths to a flame. Hypnotized by the strange and terrible beauty of a woman who might have killed her husbands and even her own son. Daisy, always dressed in black, looked more like a grieving widow than a cold-blooded killer, and yet she smiled. She waved at the crowds like she was walking the red carpet instead of standing trial for murder. There was a glint in her eye, a look that said, "You cannot touch me, you will not catch me." Daisy's chilling composure in court was not just arrogance, it was the calling card of something deeper, something that lives in the minds of serial killers. To understand Daisy, we need to step into the darkness of that mindset. Serial killers rarely see their crimes as acts of chaos. To them, murder is a craft, a ritual, sometimes even an art form. Criminal psychologists like Helen Morrison, who studied notorious killers across the 20th century, suggest that many serial killers share an eerie cocktail of traits, narcissism, manipulation, and a craving for control so absolute that taking life feels like the only way to satisfy it. There is often no single moment that creates a killer, but rather a slow build of resentment, trauma, or a belief that the world owes them something. Studies of murderers like Ted Bundy and Eileen Wuornos have shown that a lack of empathy, coupled with a warped sense of self-importance, can push someone into this dark cycle. Daisy was no different. What sets serial killers apart is not just the act of killing, but the repetition. The hunger grows. The first murder is often about opportunity or convenience, but by the second or third, it becomes a pattern, a twisted signature. Daisy's use of poison was her signature. It was clean, it was quiet, and it allowed her to watch, almost clinically, as life drained from her victims. And that wave, that smug little smile in the courtroom, that was not nerves, that was ownership. To killers like Daisy, the world is a stage, and they are the star performers. Every glance, every whispered headline is fuel for their dark ego. And yet, no amount of control, no careful calculation, could shield Daisy from the cracks that were starting to show. The audience came to see her fall, and in the end, they did not leave disappointed. Before Daisy was a headline, before she became the myth that mothers whispered about to scare their children, she was just a girl trying to make something of herself. Her early life took her to Bulawayo in Rhodesia, where she lived with her father and 2 brothers. The world was on fire with war, the Anglo-Boer War, and Daisy found herself moving back to South Africa as a boarder at the Good Hope Seminary School in Cape Town. She was bright, sharp as a blade, but there was always something restless in her eyes, like she was waiting for life to give her more. In 1903, Daisy returned briefly to Rhodesia, but soon she enrolled at the Berea Nursing Home in Durban. It was there, during a home visit, that she met Bert Fuller. Bert was young, handsome, a civil servant with the kind of easy charm that could make a girl forget her troubles. They fell in love. They planned a life together. But on their wedding day, Bert died. Blackwater fever, they said. A cruel, sudden death. He left Daisy £100 in his will. £100, and a widow's veil that she wore for far less time than one might expect. 18 months later, Daisy found herself a husband again, William Alfred Cowell, a plumber from Johannesburg. He was 36, a steady man with calloused hands and dreams of family life. They had 5 children, though only one, Rhodes, survived past childhood. William was never in good health. His stomach troubled him. His nights were restless. And on the 11th of January, 1923, he died. Daisy inherited £1,795. Money has a way of leaving shadows behind it. 3 years after William's death, Daisy married another plumber, Robert Sproat. Robert was no fool, but death makes fools of us all. After only a year of marriage, Robert collapsed, his body racked with violent stomach cramps and terrible convulsions. He survived that attack, but only for a month. On the 6th of November, 1927, Robert died and Daisy inherited £4,000. Another £560 came from Robert's pension fund. The pattern was becoming clear. By 1931, Daisy had married a third time, Sidney Clarence de Melker, another plumber. It was almost like she had a type. Or perhaps she had discovered that men who work with pipes and tools are easier to silence. But this time, Daisy's eyes turned to her son, Rhodes Cecil Cowell. Rhodes was 19. He had a reputation for laziness, for being a disappointment. Was he blackmailing his mother? Had he begun to suspect what really happened to his father and stepfather? Whatever her reasons, Daisy poisoned her only child. Daisy was no stranger to poisons. They were her silent accomplices, her invisible blades. Before we dive into Rhodes' fate, let us linger in the shadows of the bottles and powders she trusted more than any human soul. Two poisons followed Daisy de Melker like loyal servants of death: strychnine and arsenic. Strychnine is cruel. It does not kill quietly. Once swallowed, it grips the muscles like iron claws, twisting the body into rigid spasms. The victim cannot breathe. Their face freezes in a ghastly smile known as the risus sardonicus. Every nerve screams in agony until the heart itself gives out. To poison someone with strychnine is to choose a death that is not just lethal, but spectacularly brutal. Arsenic, on the other hand, is subtle. It is slow, patient. A single grain leaves the body nauseated, the stomach burning, the skin clammy. Dose after dose, it lingers in the flesh, preserving it, almost embalming the victim from within. Arsenic has no colour, no odour, and back then, no easy antidote. It was the perfect poison for someone like Daisy, who craved both certainty and invisibility. Chemists in those days marked these poisons with faint dyes: soft pink for strychnine, pale blue or green for arsenic, warnings for those who handled them. But for Daisy, these colours were not warnings. They were invitations. Her knowledge as a nurse made her dangerous. She knew exactly how much was enough to cripple a man, but not kill him right away. She knew how to make death look like illness. By the time she turned her attention to Rhodes, Daisy had become an expert in her craft. She no longer feared detection. And when her only son began to stand in her way, she reached once more for her silent companions. Rhodes was buried at New Brixton Cemetery beside his father and stepfather. A week later, Daisy was arrested. Robert's brother, William Sproat, had never let go of his suspicions. Something about Daisy's perfect widow act never sat right with him. He went to the police, pointing out the eerie similarities in the deaths of all 3 men. The graves were exhumed. The bodies told their stories. Traces of strychnine clung to the vertebrae of both husbands, marked with a soft pink hue from the dye used to track the poison. Rhodes' body was unnaturally well preserved, a grim sign of arsenic. But when the police searched Daisy's house, they found nothing. No trace of poison, no smoking gun. It seemed Daisy might walk free. Then came the cat. The cat that did not exist. In February of 1932, Daisy had travelled from Grahamstown to Turffontein, where she purchased arsenic from a pharmacist named Spilkin. She claimed she needed it to kill a troublesome cat. She signed the poison register, but instead of her current name, she signed as Mrs. Sproat, her previous identity. When Spilkin recognised her from a photograph in the newspaper, the game was over. He became the prosecution's surprise witness. The moment Daisy saw him, her calm facade cracked like glass. The Johannesburg High Court was a theatre of morbid fascination, and Daisy was its leading actress. Every day, crowds gathered before dawn, forming lines that snaked around the block, desperate for a seat in the gallery. Some came to watch justice, others to see a woman who could smile while accused of killing her own blood. The press called it the trial of the decade, and they were not exaggerating. Inside, the atmosphere was electric and suffocating all at once. Reporters scratched their pens across paper with feverish energy, capturing every word that passed Daisy's lips. She arrived each day dressed in the same sombre black dress, her veil pinned neatly in place, her pale hands folded in front of her as though she were attending a church service rather than fighting for her life. Yet, every so often, she would turn to the public gallery and flash that small, unnerving smile, like a performer acknowledging applause. The trial stretched over 30 days and drew more than 70 witnesses. Forensic experts took the stand, their words clinical but damning, each testimony carving another line into Daisy's carefully constructed facade. J.M. Watt, a renowned toxicologist from Witwatersrand University, described the terrible evidence with scientific precision, traces of strychnine and arsenic found in the bodies of her husbands and son. The jury shifted uncomfortably as he spoke of the pink-stained vertebrae and the unnaturally preserved flesher grotesque gallery of Daisy's handiwork. But Daisy was not content to sit silently. When witnesses testified against her, she would mutter under her breath, sometimes even shouting, "Liar," across the courtroom. At one point, she threw a sharp look toward a witness who dared suggest she had purchased poison with malicious intent, her voice rising with an unladylike anger. It was as though the black veil could no longer hide the steel beneath. Her lawyer tried valiantly to undo the damage. He painted Daisy as a misunderstood widow, a woman who had suffered too much loss for one lifetime, insisting that terrible, cruel Fate was the true killer. But each time the defense made progress, another witness appeared to peel back the mask. Spilkin, the pharmacist from Turffontein, was the turning point. His calm, steady testimony about the day Daisy purchased arsenic to kill a cat shattered any remaining illusions of innocence. The gallery was silent as he recounted how she had signed the register using the name Mrs. Sproat, long after she had become Mrs. de Melker. It was a lie that smelled of guilt. By the time Justice Greenberg rose to address the court, the air was heavy with anticipation. Reporters described the silence as thick enough to cut, and when the verdict came acquitted of killing her husbands but found guilty of murdering Rhodes, there was no applause, no sigh of relief. Only the sound of Daisy whispering, "I am not guilty of poisoning my son," her voice trembling for the first time. That whisper marked the end of Daisy's performance. On the 25th of November, 1932, Daisy was acquitted of killing her husbands, but found guilty of murdering Rhodes. The judge's words fell like stones, death by hanging. And so, on the 30th of December, 1932, South Africa's first recorded serial killer met her end in Pretoria Central Prison. Her husband Sydney remained steadfast in his belief that she was innocent, laying white violets on her coffin. Even now, Daisy's ghost lingers. They say she is the second woman ever hanged in South Africa after Dorothea van der Merwe in 1921. The last woman to face the gallows was Sandra Smith, years later, for stabbing a young girl to death with her lover. But Daisy's legend is the one that endures. When a door slams in the wind, people whisper, "That's Daisy." When your hair is wild and unkempt, they say, you look like Daisy de Melker. Some swear her ghost still prowls Ward 7 of the Transvaal Children's Hospital in Braamfontein. And maybe, if you are very quiet, you will hear her laughter in the corridors at night.
Thank you for watching this deep dive into one of South Africa's most infamous murderers. If this story gripped you as much as it gripped me while writing it, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more true crime tales that crawl under your skin and refuse to leave. Let me know in the comments. Do you think Daisy's crimes were driven by greed, or was there something far darker in her mind?